Hello my friends, today we'll explore the Power Automate button visual in Power BI to trigger a workflow. Imagine triggering a workflow with a simple click where stakeholders can provide inputs seamlessly into your Power BI dashboard. In previous Power Automate videos, we saw how to use data-driven alert systems integrated with Power BI. Today, we'll build on the same case study to develop a Power Automate workflow that collects inputs from project managers to mitigate budget overruns. If you haven't watched the previous videos, don't worry, I left you a link in the description. You can watch it after you finish here. Don't forget to subscribe for more cutting-edge insights. Now, grab a cup of coffee, sit back and watch. Before we start designing the workflow, let's set up the scenario. We have this budget report. It's the same budget report we used for the data-driven alerts. Please have a look on those two videos in the description below. But the idea here, we have two sources, one for budget and one for contracts signed or consumption against this budget for 5 different projects across 3 different stages or cost centers. And here we have green if we exceed the budget by less than 5% like this one, but as we go between 5 to 10% it will show amber color, and red for above 10% like these two. So simply we want to design a workflow that you can initiate to collect mitigation for whenever the budget exceeds more than 5%, like for those ones. It goes to the project owner or the budget owner to ask them to provide their mitigation, and it should automatically feed in back to the dashboard. Now let's start working on the workflow. The first thing, we're going to duplicate this page, rename it to budget exceeding, and we'll remove all the visuals except the filter on the top. Now from visuals, we select a table and we feed in from the budget, source, the project, the stage, the approved budget, contracts, and variance, and emails. So those columns we're going to need in the workflow. We have the project, the stage, and we have the budget, the approved budget, the consumption against each of the budgets, and the variance, which represent in percentage how much we have consumed against the approved budget, and we have the emails for the project managers of each of the budgets. Let's convert the sum to don't summarize. And next, let's filter this visual to only where the variance is above 105%, which means where we exceeding the budget. So from filters here, let's select greater than 1.05. Apply. So we have only those 6 projects along those stages where the budget is exceeded by more than 5%. So now we want to create the workflows for those projects where budget is exceeded. So while you're selecting this, click on Power Automate for Power BI. This will convert the table to a Power Automate visual. And if you notice here, it picked up the same fields and the filter is still applied. That means all the data we saw on the table is embedded in this visual. The next step, you click on the 3 dots here and you go to Edit. This will open this page for you where you can start building your workflow. So now you can see it looks like the Power Automate landing page. So you can see here we have list of templates, but for our case we're going to start a new one from Instant Cloud Flow. So you can see now the trigger is Power BI button clicked. So it's already configured for you, you can start with the next steps. So remember that this button includes all the data showed in the table for projects with exceeded budget, so we can use the data in our workflow. So the first step, we're going to create a loop or apply to each function to go through all the 6 data points we saw in the table. So let's search for apply to each. Here we go, click on it. You can select for BI data, so this will allow you to iterate through all projects we saw in the table. And next we'll add an action now. The first action we'll use approval. Search for approval. You have different options. We're going to use start and wait for an approval. So click on this, and from the approval type we're going to use custom response and wait for one response. So if you have in the email column, in this column, if you have more than one email, you don't need to wait for all the responses to go to the next step. It's enough to get a response from one person. And we need to use wait for one response because we want to get their feedback. So they need to provide comment where we're going to use it later in the workflow. So let's select it from here. Now the form opens for you. Here you can provide what you want them to see in the email they're going to receive as a button, and for that I'm going to write it down as provide mitigation. Next you can add the title, and for title we're going to use from the data. Here we're going to use the project name space dash the stage, again dash, and we type request for mitigation. So this is the title they're going to see in the email they're receiving. Next, the assigned to, we're going to use the email from the data. So we have the Power BI data email. And by the way, for those emails, you can only use emails of people having Microsoft 360 account. So you can't use personal emails. Bear this in mind. The approval only works with people that have Microsoft 360 accounts. Next, we're going to add the details. The details is equivalent to the body of the email they're going to receive. So you need to provide it here. So here I provided the text for the email. So you're receiving this as the project manager for, here I selected from the dynamic data, the project dash the stage. It was recorded that the approved budget for this project was exceeded by, here you can provide the variance, and we're going to use expression for that. So click on expression. So I have it ready, I'll just paste. This is the same expression we used in the data-driven alert video. Again, you can see the details in the description, but the idea is we needed this as an expression because it needs to be formatted. And this is how we format it. Let's click OK. So we have now the number provided as an expression. Let's continue. See below the details, and here we provide the approved budget and the total budget, and again we're going to use expressions for those. And finally, please provide your mitigation by clicking on provide mitigation. So now we have the approval body is ready. Let's collapse it from here. So what's coming out of this approval, I know it's called approval here, but we're using it to collect comments or mitigation. Once you run this workflow, an email will go to the project managers where they will find a button they click on and they provide their comments and submit. So we want to get these comments and store it somewhere that is linked to this dashboard. And we have many ways to do this, to store the data. For example, we can use a SharePoint list, but the easiest option for our case, we're going to use Google Sheet. So let's look for Google Sheet. So you find here the Google Sheet. Let's look for the options. We want to use insert row. So here, if this is not already linked, it will show you a message to sign in. You can sign in to your drive and you can pick up any file there. So before we pick the file, let's create a Google Sheet for our scenario. So here, I'll just right click and go to Google Sheet and create a blank spreadsheet. I'll provide the columns I want to use. So I have those headers, the project, the stage, the approved budget, the spends, the variance, and here the request date, this coming from the workflow, the response date, again from the workflow, and the person responded, and their comments. Let's also rename this spreadsheet to budget tracking, and I have my sheet ready. Now let's go back to the workflow. Now in the workflow, I'll navigate to this page and I have the budget tracking spreadsheet. I'll click on it. Here you can select the worksheet. It's called sheet 1. I'll keep it as is. And the form opens with all the headers. Here you can provide the data, and we're going to use dynamic contents. So just click here. The dynamic contents shows for you. For the project, we're going simply to use project. For the stage, same way. Approved budget and spends and variance, we'll use the same expressions we used above. So here we go. I added all the expressions. Let me add the percentage sign for the variance. And for the request date, we're going to pick up this again as dynamic content, but this time from the approval block. You can find it here. You look for request date. Here it is. Click on it. Response date. Again, you will find it from the response date here. If you notice, once we add a response date, it comes as apply to each because it assumes you might send this approval to more than one person. So it will automatically add apply to each, but don't worry about this. Just keep it as is. And response by, here you can add the name of the person, added the comment. And because this is supposed to be for approvals, you'll find it as approver name. Just click on it. And finally, the most important thing is the comment. Let's just add it from here, responses, comment. And now we have all the rows we need ready. There is one final thing we need to do here. So after you add the data, you want to reflect it immediately in your dashboard. So instead of scheduling refresh on the dashboard and wait for the next refresh, we can actually add it here as an action. After you add a row to this sheet, refresh the dashboard. Let's click on add action. Look for Power BI, and here you find the actions for Power BI. You'll find one action to refresh dataset. Refresh a dataset, click on it. So now you need to select the workspace where the dashboard is published and the dataset. But before you do that, you need to make sure that this dashboard is published. So let's just publish it to Power BI service. Let's save first. And we'll publish it on my workspace. Click select. And now we have the dashboard published. Let's select the workspace, my workspace, and navigate to the dataset. Here we go. This is the dataset. And that's it. We have the refresh block is added. So the idea here, as the comments are added to the spreadsheet, the next step, it will refresh the dataset to reflect directly in the dashboard. Before we save and apply this workflow, there is one important thing we need to do. If you remember, in our table we had 6 rows. The way the workflow is set up now, it will process one project and wait till it gets back the comments, then it will move to the next project. So it will not go in parallel. And this will be a problem because you want to send workflows for all the projects at the same time. And this you can control from the apply to each block here, from the 3 dots. Go to settings and you'll find the concurrency control. By default it's off. Let's turn it on. And here it allows you to control how many workflows at the same time you can run. We'll keep it at the default, which is 20. We have only 6, so 20 is more than enough for us. But you can change if you have a case where you want more workflows to run at the same time. But for our case, I'll keep it 20. And click done. And that's it. We have the workflow is ready and complete. Just click save and apply. So now we have our workflows ready. We can go back to report. So now we have the workflow. We can also change the text showing here on the button. From visual, format your visual, button text. We can rename it, for example, to request for mitigation. So this will be more meaningful on the button. Now we're ready to test this workflow. Now let's just run it once and see how the emails will look like. So now you just click on it to run the workflow, but because we're in Power BI desktop, it will show in editable format, so you need to hold the control button while you're doing this. So now it's triggering and the emails are being sent to all the emails provided for the 6 projects. And you can see here it's triggered. So now if I go to the email, I can see I received 6 different emails. And of course, because we're testing with the same email address as a project manager for all projects, they're coming to the same email address. Let's see how they look like. Let's look on one of them. We can see how the body of the email looks like. We have the project and the stage in the title. And here we have the body of the email. You can see here the percentage exceeded, the approved budget, the total spent. Here the project manager can provide their mitigation. I'll just type anything. For example, the spends will be revised and reduced. Let's click on submit. Now the action completed successfully, and you can see they have no option now to add more comments. It means it's closed from their side. And if we go to the budget tracking spreadsheet, we can see a row has been added with all the information, and we have the comment added by the project manager, and you can see that Power Apps automatically added a unique ID for this workflow. It shows here. So this is how the workflows work. Before we move on, I want to show you how it looks like on a mobile screen too. So these are the emails in mobile screen. You can just open any one of them. For example, this one. You can see the body of the email, and you can see here the button to provide mitigation. If you click on it, here it shows, it opens this form to fill up your comment. So here I provided the comment. Let's click submit. And you can see now the workflow is closed in the email just the same way. Let's go back to look into the spreadsheet. You can see here a new record has been added with all the information like before. So this is the spreadsheet after responding to all of the requests and providing comments. Now we have this sheet. Now let's link it back to our dashboard. Now going back to Power BI desktop, you go to Get Data, More, and you look for Google Sheet. You can find it here. Click on it, connect. Just click continue. Here you need to provide the URL for the Google Sheet. You have to copy the URL from here, but don't include the edit part, just up till here. Copy, go back to the dashboard, provide the URL, and click OK. Here it will request you to sign in to your Google account. You just click to sign in, click on connect. You can find the sheet, click on it, and click on transform data, and go to transform, and click on use first rows as headers. And maybe we change the types for the approved budget and the spends. Instead of whole number, let's use decimal number. Replace current. And that's it. We have the sheet ready. Let's just rename it, for example, to records. And we close and apply. You have the data loaded here. Now we need to create a relationship between this table, the records, and the budget. And for that, we're going to use a calculated column. Just right click on the budget, add a new column. So I'll name it link, and this basically have the project column and dash and the stage name. Hit enter. We create the same column in the records, and again the project and the stage, but this time we take it from the record table. Now we need to establish a relationship between those two columns. Go to model view, and now simply we create a relationship between the link column we created in the budget and the link column we created in the records. We can see the relationship here created. We have it 1-to-1, but because we expect the records to have more than one entry for each project and stage, we want to use one-to-many. And click on apply changes. So now we have the relationship created. We can go back to the report view. Now we can create a visual to show all the comments we get back from the project managers. Let's go and select matrix visual. Let's resize it a little bit, and we'll feed to it in the rows the link column. Then the other level, we're going to use the unique identifier created by Power Apps or for the ID. And then in the values, we're going to use the approved budget, the spends, the variance, the request date, response date, response by, and finally the comments. Now we can expand this matrix here. We can, from format, remove the columns, subtotals, and the rows subtotals. Now we need to format this visual a little bit. So this is the visual after some formatting. So now we have the dashboard ready. All we need to do now is to publish it and start testing it. So this is the dashboard published here in my workspace. You can see also the semantic model or the data. There's one step we need to do to make sure that the dashboard can auto refresh before we start testing it. Just click on the three dots, go to settings, and here in the data source credentials, you need to make sure that the credentials are correct and connected. You can see two of the sources are working, but one of them is not. You just need to click on edit credentials and log in. So that's it. We have everything is connected, and you can see the Google Sheet data source updated. Everything is working properly. Let's go back to my workspace. Let's now open the report. Here we go. We have all the pages. Let's go to the budget exceedings. And now we can start testing the dashboard. There's one important thing to know here while testing this dashboard. The filters will apply also on the button. So for example, if I select only Skyline Towers, it will filter the matrix visual here, but also it will filter the data inside the button. So this button now has only this project. And in the same way, you can select, for example, this project only from the matrix here, and this button will only filter for the selected project. So I'll keep this selected and I will request mitigation again. Let's click on the button. You can see it's triggering, and now it's triggered. Let's go and see the email we're receiving. So here we can see I've received a new email. I'll just click on it. You can add the comment here, submit. Let's go back to the dashboard. Here, just open it. You can see for the same project, a new comment has been added automatically, and the dashboard has been refreshed automatically. Now you can see here, this is the dashboard after running the workflow multiple times and testings. You can see the comments start to build up, and that's it. And there you have it, a streamlined solution to gather user inputs on key performance indicators, all with an automated and user-friendly system. If this tutorial opened new doors for you, show some support by clicking on the like button, share your thoughts in the comments below. New here? Join our community of tech enthusiasts by subscribing for more advanced business intelligence and data science adventures. Until next time, peace.